Welcome back to the show. Check out these headlines. XRP and 100 billion in untapped DeFi. XRP after the Clarity Act's passed and signed into law. We're going to take a look at it. And how about XRP price targets to 27 to 30 plus? How about somebody roll that beautiful intro?
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on X, YouTube, and DigPerspectives.com for exclusive content. Right now, $4.29 trillion market cap for crypto. The market's up 0.2%. We see 123,500 plus for Bitcoin, Ethereum 4,300 plus. We see number 5 spots slipping all the way down from the number 3 spots, XRP at 283. If you're scared, say you're scared. I'm not scared. We're off 1.6 on the 24. We're off 5.2 on the 7-day range of price here between 279 and 292. And I triple dog dare it to go back into 270 or lower moving into the weekend, because I'm going to show you something if that's what's going to happen. Not financial advice. Take a look at this. This isn't financial advice either, but I tell you what, the response has been overwhelming and incredible. So many happy people using Caleb and Brown. Oh, you can do it too. XRPwealth589.com. They have free institutional grade custody, multiple layers of security, as anyone would expect. Plus, you can put special restrictions on your account when you talk to your personal prime broker. This is a remarkable service, ladies and gentlemen. You're not going to believe it. No hidden fees, no spreads, one flat trading fee, and you can negotiate that with larger withdrawals. Now, where else do you get that kind of flexibility? And where else do you have the opportunity to make that kind of connection that could last for years and years and years with your broker? And I tell you, this is remarkable. And let me tell you something else too. Caleb and Brown doesn't borrow against customer assets. Now, there's somebody out here talking a lot of trash on Caleb and Brown, and they're borrowing against your assets. That's what they're doing. But Caleb and Brown will never do that. So understand that this is a crypto brokerage, right? And if anybody's going to be borrowed against my assets, I can tell you who it's going to be. It's going to be me, right? It'll always be me. It'll never be somebody else leveraging my assets to their gain. I can guarantee you that. You can go there too, xrpwealth589.com, and check it out for yourself. Breaking $2 trillion Citibank just said live on CNBC that Bitcoin will continue to go up for the next 12 months. Take a listen.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think going into late 26, your forecast for Bitcoin and Ether are pretty good, yes?
Not mine, but our team's. Yeah. So we're looking for continued follow through there. It kind of comes back to your discussion earlier on how to think about your alts in terms of gold and crypto. And I think your commentary spot on there. I mean, I think we just have to allow that. You have a very aggressive momentum-driven equity market, and so I think people don't want to miss that. So you're looking for your hedging opportunity, and the way we see it, in addition to central bank buying, as you mentioned, I think that those two asset classes become hedges of choice as you're trying to navigate this ongoing strength, highly valued but momentum-driven equity market.
Correct me if I'm...
There you have it right there. And if he's right, if the team is right at Citi about Bitcoin going up for the next 12 months, then the 4-year cycle is busted. And we might be into a 5-year cycle, as we've heard Raoul Pal talk about, right? So, and that could really be a thing, because when you get the legislation, you're talking about an impact with legislation being signed into law. This would be a fundamental piece of news that we've never experienced in this market before. And it's certainly needed. We all want it. And here's the question about Bitcoin that financial advisors are still wrestling with. Take a listen.
What about S&P 500 companies and them putting assets, digital assets, ETH or Bitcoin on their balance sheet? We're starting to see more companies going in this direction. What do you think they're going to choose? A McDonald's, a Microsoft, an Apple? Would they go ETH or Bitcoin?
I think they'll go Bitcoin.
Why haven't we seen that happen yet?
I think you're starting to slowly see it happen.
It's at an all-time high.
Paul, I think you and I can agree on something. People like you and I are very impatient. We've been in crypto for a while and we want things yesterday. So look, I think things are going to happen. It takes a while, right? I have real conversations with family offices and CEOs of companies.
Yeah, for sure.
One question that I get all the time is, why would I own an asset I don't even know who created it?
Well, there you have it. And there you have it. I said this in a quote tweet here. Let me see if I can find it very quickly here. It's a question worthy of an official answer. Smart investors always ask the right questions. That's what we're talking about here. They're just asking a simple question that no one can answer in the Bitcoin community. They refuse to answer it, in fact, right? And to me, that falls short. That falls short as an investor. This wasn't something somebody found in the woods or in the ground, right? This is a software code that we know, according to Rana Sayad from Homeland Security, 4 people did it, right? So it's a question worthy of an official answer. I'll tell you that. Nonetheless, I have exposure to it, and I'm not afraid to have exposure to it because I believe it was created by a 3-letter agency here in the good old USA, and they're never going to tell you that they created it because they want the world to keep buying it because it'll help offset some of the debt in a strategic reserve, which I believe is going to happen too. If enough people out here say it's nighttime, it won't matter that it's daytime. That's how I'm rolling. Fed rate cut October 15th. Spot XRP ETFs should start jumping off between October 18th and beyond. Ripple Bank license October 28th to the 30th. Could go into November with the shutdown. Clarity Act Senate markup late October. Clarity Act floor vote early November. Swell conference November 4th to the 5th. ISO for SWIFT goes live November 22nd in 2025. These are just a few things that are sitting in front of us that could send the market parabolic, period, all across the board. All of these things together could be absolutely incredible, something we've never witnessed in this space before. So it's all things we got in front of us, and that's why I could be super excited and laugh and make jokes because I believe all of these things will get done. You don't have to. I'm not asking anybody else to, but I have the confidence they will get done. And meanwhile, hopping around here for some of this news just to keep up with what's jumping off here, Animoca Brands via limited partnership fund managed by Hong Kong listed DL Holdings set to tokenize special purpose vehicles known as SPVs primarily on the XRP ledger. There you have that. Things are new products jumping off all the time. And here, how XRP legal victory turned into Wall Street's favorite crypto. And we know the answer to this. The institutional adoption and market signals are showing real signs that institutions are turning in and leaning in to XRP, whether it's the ETF demand that's building or whether we're talking about renewed interest for XRP has already started because the token saw strong price gains alongside of higher trading volumes and growing institutional accumulation. Just to speak to that, custodian data supports trends that BitGo reported that XRP made up 3.9% of its holdings as of June 25, highlighting its growing share in regulated portfolios. The inclusion suggests steady institutional interest in XRP's utility and compliance profile. Then, of course, we saw another signal for big demand. It was May of 25 when CME Group introduced XRP futures, which saw $542 million in trading volume during the first month. About 45% of it was outside North America. Open interest started at around 70.5 million and climbed to past 1 billion by August, pointing to rising demand for regulated exposure to XRP. So as of October 25, this SEC is reviewing several spot XRP ETF applications, which we highlighted. And we know some of those are Grayscale, Bitwise, 21 Shares, Canary Capital, along with others. And the participation of established asset managers adds credibility to the growing push for XRP-based ETFs, which could start rolling out live in just another week or two. So head on a swivel. And speaking to rolling out new products, DeFi has been the talk of the town in the XRP community, and there's a reason for that. But let's listen to Charles Hoskinson from Cardano talk about it as well.
And it's the same for XRP DeFi. You know, as much shit as the XRP community gets, it's almost $100 billion of XRP floating around that's yield free, and there's no DeFi ecosystem for it. So what you do is you try to match RWAs, and you try to match all these emerging assets that now, because of changing regulation, can finally enter the space, and they produce lots of great yield, and you pair them up with Bitcoin, you pair them up with ADA, you pair them up with, you know, XRP, these types of things, and that alone will get us probably the 10, 15 billion for TVL, and a lot more transaction volume.
And it'll also contribute to all the others like Midas, Axelar, right? You know, the MXRP, right? Like Flare. All of these products are going to help contribute to locking up the total value of liquidity out here, which over time will help support a price floor for the asset. Don't believe it, it's still true. And I say the XRP yield in DeFi will be the greatest unlock of idle liquidity in the digital asset space. Don't believe it, it's still true. It really is. And I can't wait for it. And listen, and I'll tell you what else I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for the Bank of Americas, the Wells Fargos, the Fidelities. I'm waiting for all of them and the exchanges. Uphold has said to be working with Flare on an option for DeFi. How exciting would that be if you could just click a button on your Uphold platform and be taking advantage of a DeFi option on Flare without ever leaving the Uphold vault? That would be amazing. I don't know if that's how it'll look, but something like that would be very appealing to Bradley. I can tell you that. Nonetheless, let's take a look at, you know, looking beyond where we're getting ready to be in a very short period of time, because I do believe in Q4, we're getting the Clarity Act passed through the Senate, and that will make it law. And then it's going to be signed into law by the president. So with that, what does this space look like? What does XRP look like when we get beyond the Clarity Act, which we're all waiting for, right? Well, number one, we see the global cooperation taking place. Remember when we reported on this back in September, UK and US to announce closer crypto cooperation in deal including stable coins. And then we know Bank of England just came out yesterday and said they're lifting the limits on stablecoin holdings. This is all part of the cooperation that we're seeing between the US and the UK as well. We can't forget that in the Middle East, Central Bank of Bahrain has certified as Sharia compliant with Ripple's XRP, and that is something that not everyone has. And then there's the proliferation of stablecoins all across the world, as well as here at home. Now, North Dakota joins Wyoming to become the second state to issue a stable coin. Now, you say to yourself, now, what's the big deal about this, Brad? The big deal is that we're getting all of these private issuers of stable coins, which will hold all these U.S. treasuries that are going to be coming back home not too long from now, I would imagine. And this is specifically to help protect us and provide a new use case for U.S. Treasury backing the digital stable coins. And then we can eventually unwind from the petrodollar agreement, not relying on that from the OPEC producing countries. So that is a big step forward. This is a big transition where we're going here. And then Luxembourg's sovereign wealth fund has invested 1% of its portfolio into Bitcoin ETFs, making it the first move by the Eurozone state fund. Well, rightfully so here. Shout out to the GOAT DAI, says Bitcoin Telegraph would have you believe Luxembourg is all about Bitcoin, so I'll just leave this here. And here we know he shares this post. Luxembourg delegation stopped by at the Ripple office in San Francisco and to see Ripple's CEO, Brad Garlinghouse, sporting our glasses. There you have it right there. So there's connections all over the place. And Coinbase gets the right to expand staking access to New York, covering 46 states in total. Now, you know, when you see them open the doors to New York, it makes me think of one thing. This doesn't happen if we're not getting the Clarity Act passed and signed into law. This is obviously a signal that's being like, yes, you can go because the Clarity Act is going to pass. That's how I interpret that information for myself. Now, Why am I showing you all of this? I'm showing you all of this because what I believe is where we're going. And Mark Yusko begrudgingly admitted it on the Good Morning Crypto show. Shout out to Johnny and Apps. And I'm going to play this and then I'm going to show you something else after.
So we'll see. But the case for the strategic Bitcoin reserve, because Bitcoin is digital gold, everything else has different roles. Something that could happen, I don't know if it'll happen the first 100 days, Abs, but there's some talk, this will make the XRP people really happy. There is some talk that XRP could be utilized and or ordered to be used for a central bank digital currency or as the base layer for national banking. I don't know if it'll happen or not, but that's one that if that does happen, that changes things. It's kind of like.
There you have it. So that's where he's at. And then we line that up with Bob Way after Neatsbucks comes out and says, as in Ripple will become a global bank with banking licenses in most major countries with real stable coins in most major currencies, and it all runs through XRP Ledger as a super global neo bank. Bob Way responds and says, yes, almost spot on. The reason Ripple needs to become a bank is because existing banks are and have been too cautious to bank XRP Ledger-based businesses. There you have it. That's where we win, ladies and gentlemen, I believe, is when we have the G7, G20 nations all represented on the XRP Ledger. Then everybody else is going to look silly because the world is going to operate where the world is. And the world, I believe, after the Clarity Act will be using the XRP ledger in this manner. Now, I'm not suggesting one ledger rules them all. It's a multi-chain world after all. It really is. And I do believe that. And my portfolio believes it. So I'm not saying that, but what I am saying here is that Ripple clearly understood this from day one. And they have built to serve the world we're going to, not the world we're in. And I believe that's why and how we win. And in case you're wondering, this is a bigger diagram of what that looks like right here. This is a more proper diagram, what I believe was confirmed by Bob Way. Yes, we're going to see this right here. Unbelievable. That's where we're going. And Eggrad Crypto says, I'll tell you where else we may be going. We may be going up here to $27 to $30 plus. That's where we may be going. But it'll take a strong stomach to get there with real intestinal fortitude, because no one goes through these big drawdowns and makes it unless you've got that intestinal fortitude to get to the other side. If you want the big gains, you got to be able to stomach the drawdowns and the delays, the pushbacks, the FUD. And I know each one of you do. I celebrate each and every one of you. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. I'll catch all of you on the next one.